Good evening, everyone. We are here for a 5:30 committee meeting. We're going to hear from transportation, from our planning and development department, and also from our extension office. I thought we would start off with planning and development. Uh, Mr. Wallen, if that's okay with you, we'll start with you tonight, and we'll follow up with Finley, and then we'll finish with the extension office.
Definitely.
All right.
Well, what I wanted to present to y'all is some information on Markham Square. And so I'll share my screen here. Can everybody see that? No, there we go. Okay. As you're all aware, Markham Square, that's the park that we're building along Markham Street. It's been enabled by a $600,000 grant from the EPA and the Arkansas Natural Resources Commission. With that, there's a city match of about $880,000, give or change $500 added on that will be kicking in. In addition, we are planning to allocate during construction another $30,000 from the Public Art Board for art to honor the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So along those lines, which the park will be sort of dedicated to that purpose. Where we're at currently on the project is we're reviewing the final design, looking at all the elements with that, probable cost, opinion of cost on the improvements, and kind of working through those things to make sure that we stay within a general realm. This may end up being in some ways a phased project with some of our improvements in the first phase, and then as we get funding committed, some additional improvements. But we're still looking at that in terms of the design elements and whatnot. We're likely looking at construction in 2022 is when that will happen. That's when we need to do it for the grant. And kind of go through a few elements here of the project. As you all are aware and know, this started out as the scrapyard, and I think that's probably one of the really beautiful elements of this entire project is that we're taking something that was literally, so ugly and an eyesore within the community and transforming it into one of the best spaces in Conway. And that to me is particularly exciting. It's particularly I think neat about this project that it does have this high aesthetic quality that makes it so unique. In addition, it's going in the Markham Street neighborhood. I think this is a signal and commitment of how much that particular neighborhood matters to our community. And so I think that's very exciting as well. So this is the overall design of the project. You'll notice at the top edge of the image, that's where water comes in from the north, and it winds along in that kind of snaky part along the side of it, where it's treated and then goes out. So the idea behind this project is that there's sort of three elements to it. The first of which is that it's a water quality demonstration project. And as is in essence, you could consider it a down payment on helping improve water quality of the storm drainage and water that we have going into Lake Conway. So the elements that are coming in, runoff, pollutants that are coming into the site, the water will actually be leaving here cleaner than when it came into the site because of the unique plants that we have on there that will be absorbing a lot of those pollutants. We're using a lot of native species in here, half of which I to be honest, couldn't tell you what they are. But we're working with master naturalists within Faulkner County to help us on the plant selection. Our designers, SWA, has done a really great job in terms of working with them, and they may actually be working with us over time to help with maintenance because they are unique plants. The other aspect of this, obviously, another one is the storm drainage function. So in terms of providing detention. With a site this small, it would never be possible for us to fix the downtown drainage problems. And so again, this is kind of in a situation where it's helping improve that. It's not going to solve the problem. We've got, 100 years of or over 100 years of development and things that have occurred. And so, one site in particular won't solve that. It won't be the silver bullet, but it will make things better as well. And then obviously from looking at the picture, you can tell that this is a very high quality urban park that is unique. We don't have anything like this in Conway. There really, in a lot of ways, won't be a lot similar to it within Central Arkansas. So it's going to be a really unique asset that I think will be very catalytic in helping development within that area. So very important improvement that's being made. Looking at this, we've broken it down into several sort of key parts of the park. The first being the entry plaza that's on the southeast corner. This is the area that is closest to downtown. And so this is being designed and really in a way that is intended to help invite people to come into the space from downtown, kind of traversing along the Markham Street corridor. As you can see here in the image, that we've got that nice plaza space, some artwork, which hopefully or possibly will be, a quote wall dedicated to Dr. King. And we may have some other type of artwork that's dedicated to Dr. King in that space. But it provides this nice inviting environment that says, hey, come walk in here, come explore it, come loiter. That's what we want you to do in a park and look around and enjoy the beauty of the environs there. Our next is the bioswell. That's sort of the treatment area that was talking about, where the water enters, up towards the top or north side of that and flows down to the south. You can see here all of the sort of beautiful plants and everything as they would look and when they're flowering. That a lot of these native species that I think will be really unique and kind of very interesting. So if you've been out to the constructed wetland out at Hendricks, obviously, that or better quality is sort of what we're looking at in terms of how that looks. The other, this being a park, we wanted to have some level of play area so that it incorporates multiple things in there. And so, with that, we've got some neat elements in there. We've got some embankment slides for kids to go along. We got a play area where kids can, balance along beams. We're talking about table games that hopefully we can help incorporate some of the identity of the neighborhood in there. With that, and picnic tables. And this is kind of the appearance of how that is. That again, it's a place for families to bring children, allow them to run around, have fun, enjoy the area. You can't really see it very well on this. Going back, there's a water discovery area in there where, some areas for I'm not going to say water play necessarily, but for in terms of looking at some of the water and things, there'll be some little mechanisms where kids can release water out of a certain area and allow it to flow down into another area that I think will be sort of helpful and useful in understanding, some of the educational aspects of why the park, what it's doing, what it's intended to accomplish with that. Another is sort of our perform area, and this is the area where we'll have essentially what amounts to a modified type of amphitheater. That's something that in the public engagement and talks that there was a lot of discussion about wanting to have some type of performance space, even if it's some type of informal performance space with their. Some of the neat elements that we have with there, it's going to be using recycled concrete from the existing site. So giving, again, that connection to its previous use and allowing that to be incorporated in the site. We'll also be using Arkansas Hackett stone walls and stone seats, which are that really kind of beautiful type of stone that you see up in North Arkansas. Actually, there's a town called Hackett out in West Arkansas that has that, but have those benches that again give it a really neat, a little bit of a rustic, natural look that pours out into this great lawn that we have there that will actually be used for part of the stormwater storage or detention when there are those rain events where it backs up. And that's kind of the image of that. Again, it'll be altering, varying elevations through there that give it a lot of visual beauty with that. So, again, I mean, this is a pretty beautiful park. I think it's something that you all will be very proud of, that collectively the residents and stakeholders in Conway will all be proud of, that I think it's going to be a very important project for us.
James, that looks great. Yeah, I think you said 2022 on the start date of the construction. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Who's going to
James.
do that? Who's going to do that work, James?
That will have to be something that ends up getting bid out. One of the things that in the consultant that we selected, SWA, which is out of Dallas, because of this project being unique, there's a lot of unique plants. There's a lot of that they part of their proposal, they include having, I'm not going to call it construction inspection because that's not exactly what it is, but that they have people that will be involved in the project when it is constructed, to make sure that the intent of what their design is ends up being carried out. And that for us, in terms of selecting that particular group was very important, because this is unique, it's different. There's not a lot of types of projects that are around here that are like that I think having that element will ensure that we get a good quality product at the end.
Hey, Bart, James,
Yes.
This is David. Hey, it looks fabulous, James. Thank you and everybody else for what we've done so far on this. But what this is, this is a further example of the high quality of place and the high quality element of Conway that really was, kind of started with Tab's vision and continued on, with Bart and the rest of us. But this is really one of the best things we've done, and we're still just getting started. Thank you.
It's really going to change our northern entrance into downtown. It's going to be especially nice. Finley can kind of bring everybody up to speed on our time frame on finishing the street. I know the first section of Markham Street took an extended amount of time. It was due to two circumstances. It was due to an enormous amount of rainfall during that time. That just seemed to be spaced out about every 3 days, and also COVID pulled back on the contractor had to pull back on some of his crews that were out there. But when Finley gives his portion, if I don't remember, let's ask him if he's got a kind of a time frame on the rest of Markham Street. Any other questions for Mr. Walden?
James, I know we had kind of brought in a group of people, especially from the Pine Street neighborhood, as we looked at what consultant and kind of gathered some information. I wonder if we could give them a quick update sometime in the next few weeks, just so they can kind of see that. I think they would really enjoy seeing this. And I made a couple notes. I saw the quote walk that went around the play area, and that might be a way to recognize some of the businesses that were original to Markham Street and list those family names and the business names there, just as that reminder. And they may have other ideas too, but they were a big help in kind of steering this in this direction. So
absolutely.
Well, I want to say something. I'm really appreciative of what we're doing on Markham Street. It's been overlooked for so long, and I'm glad we're including everybody in this project. And a lot of people really thank you for what we're doing. And it touches my heart because I've been here forever and seen how bad it was. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I'd like to take some credit for it, but I can't. That's going to fall back to Tab and this council here. That was all you guys. So y'all knocked it out of the park on that one. Good job, everyone. Any other questions for Mr. Walden? All right, Mr. Vinson, you're up. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to take just a minute first and talk about what we've accomplished in the last 4 years. We've completed 13 major roadway improvements, Baker Wills Parkway and Oak Street interchange, Smith and Spencer Streets downtown, Bean Street by the park, Eve Lane, Augusta Avenue, which was one of the very last gravel roads in the center of town. We finally paved. 6th Street and Bruce Street were completed. Chestnut and Van Ronkel were improved downtown. Stanley Russ Road was rebuilt, and Tyler Street was improved. And in addition, we've opened 7 new roundabouts. 4 on 6th Street at Ingram, First, Central Landing Boulevard, and Amity. And then 1 at College in Salem, which the county helped us with. And then 2 mini roundabouts, 1 at College and Country Club and 1 at Chestnut and Van Ronkel. We've also built 4 bridges, the 6th Street overpass at I-40, 2 bridges crossing Tucker Creek at the Tyler Street Bridge and the Gatlin Park Bridge, as well as the Stone Dam Trail overpass over Dave Ward. And then lastly, probably the most ambitious thing that we've done is we've completed 99 asphalt overlays, and I'm going to work real hard to get 1 more in so we can have an even 100 before the year's out. But all told, we have placed over 100 lane miles of asphalt in the city of Conway in the last 4 years so far, and I'm really proud of that.
That's fantastic.
Well, yeah, I'm really impressed.
Did you say the one at Irby and Salem? I don't know if you said that one or not. I just drove through that one.
Yeah, I can see you're driving.
I know it's not completely finished, but man, it has made traffic so much smoother in this area.
I will get to that. I don't consider that one to be completed yet.
It's, man, we're going through it. It works. Thanks, Finley.
I think the police chief may be on here, so you're driving and meeting at the same time. I hope William Tapley doesn't come looking for you. And I'm sorry too, Finley. Did you mention Hillman and Davis? Maybe I didn't hear it.
I'll get to that also.
All right, my bad. You're up.
No problem at all. So I just want to ask real quick, do I have an echo? Is everybody hearing me okay?
Good.
Okay, good. So yeah, I appreciate the compliments, but we don't want to rest on our laurels. So I'll tell you what we've got going on right now. I'm going to share my screen for this. And I don't have a fancy PowerPoint like James does, but we're going to start on Donaghy Avenue. Phase 1, as you know, is under construction right now. And that extends from Dave Ward to College. It's currently being widened. The contractor is ahead of schedule, and we expect that phase of the project to be completed next fall. Now, phase 2 extends from College about right here. Phase 1 does include the roundabout at College and Donaghy, and phase 2 will include 2 more roundabouts and will extend to Prince, where there will be a roundabout. There will also be one at Caldwell. Conway Corporation is set to begin utility relocation by the end of the year for phase 2, and construction is scheduled to complete on phase 2 once phase 1 has been completed. Now, I'm going to show you very quickly what Donaghy is going to look like. So this is the, I'm going to scroll up just a little bit here. There we go. So on the southern section, starting at Dave Ward, Donaghy is going to have the first buffered bike lanes in Conway. We're excited about that. It's going to have bollards to separate the cyclists from the travel lanes. We don't have a street sweeper that will fit in that space, so UCA has very kindly and graciously offered to help us to keep those clean. As you move north, the street gets narrower, and we're only rebuilding the section south of Robbins. And so we're utilizing the existing pavement to put in a buffered bike lane on the west side of the road, but we're going to put in a cycle track on the east side of the road, and it'll be separated from the sidewalk by a brick inlay. And then as you move further north, the bike lane will drop at College Avenue, and you'll have cycle tracks on both sides. So that's what you can expect to see on Donaghy after it has been completed. I'm going to go back to my Google Earth here, and we've talked a lot about Markham Street already. As you know, phase 1 is under construction, and that extends from Van Ronkel to Walnut, which is right there. Everybody see Google Earth? Not if you can see Google Earth. Okay, good. Conway Corporation and CenterPoint Energy are currently working to complete the utility relocation of that first phase. They're also working on the second phase kind of at the same time. Construction of that first phase is about 50% complete and is scheduled to be completed in the spring of next year. Phase 2, which will go from Walnut right here all the way to Hark, is scheduled to commence. We'll let that project before phase 1 is completed, and it should commence right about the same time that phase 1 is completed. And the whole project, phases 1 and 2, should be completed, I would say, probably early 2022. Now, that project is similar to Dave Ward in the sense that it's got cycle tracks also. You might remember that this was a Metro Plan grant, and it required several things, one of them being that it had to be bicycle friendly and pedestrian friendly. So it's going to have cycle tracks on both sides of the road, separated from the sidewalk by a brick inlay. It's also going to have bioswales, which is going to work in tandem very well with the Markham Street water quality project. So we're excited about that one. Now, Salem and Irby, we talked about just a moment ago. The construction here is ahead of schedule, and it is the final paving is expected to be completed here next week, and the project will be completely wrapped up probably in the middle of next month. And this is what it looks like right now. Of course, many of you have seen it already because some of you have driven through it, but this is what it'll look like when it's done. And I've already heard a lot of compliments on this. We're really excited, and I've really got it. My hat's off to the contractor and Conway Corporation. They've worked really fast on this one and kept traffic moving, and they've done a really good job. So now we're going to go to Hillman, another one that the mayor mentioned. Street crews are working out here right now. This is where it is. Utility relocation and drainage installation are underway currently. We expect that to be done early to mid-summer. So a few other things we're working on. We're working on a bunch of grant projects right now. Stone Dam Trail Phase 1 is a grant project we won from RDOT that takes us from Mimosa to Donaghy. It actually takes us, that phase of the project will take us underneath Donaghy. And construction is scheduled to begin this spring. Now, phase 2 of this project, which we have a current grant application to RDOT out right now, and we hope to hear back favorably on that. If awarded, that will extend the project all the way down to South German. So another roundabout we're working on is Tyler and Salem. Right there. Our design is at about 60% on this right now. We're currently working on our right-of-way plans and legal descriptions. If you're at home and you're listening to this and you live on one of those corners, don't panic. You're going to hear from me very soon. We have almost got the legal descriptions complete, and you'll be hearing from us. Conway Corporation is scheduled to begin utility relocation at this intersection early next year, and construction will commence as soon as they're out of the way. Incidentally, I will have, I've got some preliminary plans on the website right now that show this, but I'll update those plans on the website shortly to show a much better drawing of what that's going to look like. The next one after that will be College and Ferris. And you guys are all seeing Google Earth still, I hope. I'm still looking at good. So College and Ferris, we're just about done with the preliminary design on this one. We'll be contacting property owners early next year to start talking about acquisition, and we expect construction on this one to begin in 2022. Another one that we're all very excited about is the roundabout at Hogan and Old Morrilton. We finally convinced RDOT to build a roundabout at this location, and they're scheduled to commence in 2022 as well. One that we've been talking about for quite a while, is the new bridge over Tucker Creek on Salem Road. As you guys know, this bridge is very much in need of improvement. It's not bicycle or pedestrian friendly. So we recently applied for a grant to MetroPlan to replace this bridge, and I anticipate a favorable award there. If awarded, construction is scheduled to begin no later than early 2022. Now, once that bridge has been replaced, the next thing will be to improve the entirety of Salem Road from College to Dave Ward. That project will begin once the bridge has been replaced. And so I would expect this project to begin late 2022.
Finley, Finley, excuse me just a second.
No problem.
Well, when we put the new bridge at Salem and Tucker Creek in, we reroute the bike pathway to go underneath, or are we still going to have that at surface grade?
I'm so glad you asked that. I had intended to mention that the trail will go underneath the new bridge.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
The existing signal that we have there will be relocated to another location, probably either College or Hogan.
Okay.
So we can use that existing hardware elsewhere.
Good.
Thank you for that question.
You're welcome. And what is going to happen to Salem Road? Can you tell the people that that live out in this area what we're going to do in this section of the road?
Of course, that's another good question. We are going to add, the most important thing, I think, for the improvement of this road is the addition of sidewalks. As you know, there is a elementary school and a middle school right here, and so many school children walk and bike this section of Salem. And so we anticipate adding both bicycle and pedestrian access, most likely via wide side paths on both sides of the road. As in addition, we'll be adding curb and gutter and proper drainage to the road as well. But what I'm most excited about is the bicycle and pedestrian accessibility. On that note, we applied for a grant to RDOT to build a sidewalk on Hark Rider between Bruce and Robbins. Some of you, we're anticipating that RDOT will improve Hark Rider between Oak Street and Bruce I hope within the next 3 to 4 years. But in preparation for that, we want to go ahead and build this sidewalk to connect Robbins and Bruce, and we won that award. We're at 30% design for that sidewalk right now. We submitted that to RDOT for review, and we expect construction next year on that. Another side path that we're working on is another grant project. We completed preliminary design to build a side path on the north side of College here between Salem and Ferris. to connect to these two intersections. That Metro Plan grant application was submitted in September, and we hope to hear back on that one soon. Another one we're working on is Nutter's Chapel. Down here, you guys probably know that this section up here of Nutter's Chapel is improved and has curb and gutter, but the curb and gutter stops about right there. So we're currently working on a design. We're about halfway done with the design to improve this section of Nutter's Chapel and include curb and gutter and sidewalks on both sides and bike lanes to improve this section. And the road improvement will actually stop right here, but we will carry the sidewalks on the west side to connect to this existing sidewalk, and on the east side will connect to this existing sidewalk here. And we're currently working with Conway Corporation to get them the information they need so they can be out of the way in time. And then lastly, that beautiful park project that James just got finished presenting on, we're working on another grant application. We're working on a preliminary design for two wooners, to use James's fancy term for a shared street, for Willow and Garland between Spencer and Markham. So the northern and southern boundaries of the park are two unbuilt right-of-ways, and we're putting together a future Metro Plan grant application to ask them to help us build these two shared streets here, as well as perhaps some improvements to Spencer Street to provide a safe space for people to interact and park and go to the park. So that's mostly it for roadway projects. We've also got several signal projects we've been working on. I hope everybody has seen improvement to the signal timing on Dave Ward. We are wrapping that up, the Dave Ward Adaptive Project, which was a grant application we got from Metro Plan. We were awarded a similar one on Oak Street, and I'm very excited about this. The design is more than halfway done on that. The construction will start next year, and it's going to take, and it'll probably be wrapped up by the end of the following year. It takes some time to get this installed, but I think we'll see significant improvement on the signal timing on Oak Street when that's put in. And then lastly, RDOT has agreed to help us with the signal improvement at Hark and Robbins. Just a couple of weeks ago, I saw yet another truck get hung up at this railroad crossing. It continues to be a problem. So they're going to look at improving this intersection to make that crossing safer. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. In addition, we've got a contractor working to finish Ward 4 pavement marking right now. Once he finishes that, we will finish painting the entire city in the last 4 years, which is great because we had a lot of streets that were in dire need of some new paint. We've installed over a dozen flashing beacons in the city. I've honestly lost count of how many we've put in, but I think it's been somewhere around 16. And those have largely been in and around school zones to make crossing safer for children. And we're continuing to work on that. We put in more every year. We've had a lot of good drainage projects. We just recently submitted a notice of intent to apply for a FEMA grant for a drainage study downtown. And in addition, we wrapped up this year a state grant, which we won to acquire 10 houses that were experiencing repetitive loss near Sugar Creek that were in the floodplain. In addition, one of the things we've been continually working on since soon after the mayor took office is clearing of some major creeks and drainage ways in town that were overgrown. We've cleared over 14 miles so far. And those include Gold Creek, Tucker Creek, Stone Dam Creek, Railroad Creek, and a bunch of other creeks that don't have names. And we're currently working on Stone Dam Creek.
Has that been done with our forces, Finley, or we contracted that out?
We contracted out the very first one. And while that was being done, we learned a lot. And then we bought our equipment and we've been doing it ourselves ever since. So lastly, we've spent more time on sidewalks than I think we ever have at the transportation department in the last 4 years. And, you know, as has been the case for many years now, every roadway improvement that we have installed has included sidewalks. We've also worked on completing some sections of sidewalk that were missing, such as on Country Club near Julia Lee Moore. But our main focus has been to prioritize maintenance of the old Conway area in places where the sidewalks are in disrepair. And so we've completed maintenance projects on Prince, Davis, and Robinson. And we're currently working on Bruce Street. And to come in the coming years will be Scott, Oliver, Caldwell, and Locust, not necessarily in that order. And that is all I have. But we're doing a lot.
Hey, Finley, it's David.
Yes,
Hey, great report. Sounds like you guys are very, very busy. You may have said this, but if all things go as planned, when will Donaghy be complete?
I'm going to check my notes to make sure I don't get it wrong. Phase 1 should be completed by the fall of next year. Phase 2 will start right around the same time that phase 1 is completed, and will likely have a 1-year time frame. So it will be the fall of 2022.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like from what you said, in about the year 2023, Conway drivers are going to see a vastly different road system than what they have now. That sounds fantastic.
Yes, sir.
One other question. You outlined a whole bunch of projects, and I'm guessing that the temporary 5-year tax that was passed several years ago that's going to raise about $25 million is going a long way to help that out. Is that correct?
Certainly, yes. So the two largest projects that we've got going on, well, right now, Dave Ward Drive. I'm sorry, Donaghy Avenue. You know, that's one of the most ambitious projects we've taken on in quite some time, and that one's being funded solely by that tax. Salem Road, the Salem Road improvements that will follow the bridge are also being funded by that tax. And then a lot of the asphalt overlays that we've been able to accomplish, significantly more asphalt overlays than we've ever had before in this period of time, largely as a result of that tax.
Sounds great. Sounds like money well spent. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions for Mr. Benson? Well, Finley, let me publicly thank you and your department for all the tremendous work you've done. You guys are getting it and getting things done. And David, you mentioned 2023. There's a big difference now, and it goes to Finley and his group. I'd also like to thank Mark Ledbetter in Faulkner County. Judge Baker and Mark have partnered with us on several big projects, and without them, a lot of this wouldn't be done. Rogers Group and JCI, we've just got a lot of great partners in Conway, and I appreciate all of them. Appreciate you, Finley.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, I do not think that the extension office is online, so we will adjourn until 6:30. Thank you, everyone.
all paper applications.
Can y'all hear me and see me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Bye.
Good evening, everyone. We always proceed each council meeting with a word of prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance. Miss Isby, could I ask you to word our prayer for us, please, ma'am? Thank you, Miss Isby. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Miss Isby. We'll now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll, please, sir?
Mr. Hawkins,
Here.
Mr. Grimes,
He was here.
Mr. Pruitt,
Here.
Miss Mel,
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Miss Isby.
Here.
Okay, you should have received copies of the city council meeting for October 13th, 2020. Any corrections, changes, or comments?
Make a motion for approval as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these minutes as submitted. If there is no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8-0. First up, we have our monthly financial report for the month ending September 30th, 2020. Mr. Winningham, sir, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ain't gonna believe
So
it.
our, overall financial position in the general fund continues to improve here as we head towards the end of the year. For a few different factors. Number one, spending freeze is still in effect, and we're still holding departments to that. Through the end of September, typically you should be about 75% through your budget, but you can see our expenses are at 66% now, which is down. If you compare the dollars to dollars versus last year, we're still down about 4% in spending. We will continue to get the ad valorem taxes. You don't really see a big receipt this month in the general fund, but you will see that for October, November, and December for the property taxes that were due on October 15th. And we also continue to realize the insurance turnback from lot fee, which helps out our revenue pretty significantly. And sales tax was up again. Sales tax was up about 4.2% this month, and for the year we're up about 4.8%. So it's
that blows me away, Tyler. That just absolutely blows me away. The sales tax revenue is that high.
Yeah.
What we went through early in the year.
Yeah. Now A&P is down still. Actually, it was A&P in September was up dollars over the dollars collected in 2019, but it's still down year to date about 8%.
Hey, Andy, I agree 100% with you. And you know what that tells me? What Tyler just said, online shopping can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. So we've had it has been of course, a difficult year for not just city of Conway, but everybody, and we've made it through pretty well. And, we're showing a net revenue through September, $972,000. And, I think we'll continue to keep those expenses down from, going into the last quarter of the year, and hopefully, make a nice contribution back to the fund balance for the general fund once it's all said and done. Street fund, their expenditures have been showing up all year long compared to last year, but this time last year was about when we really started to see some big expenses being paid. If you look back at those financials, one of the main contributors to that was improvements on Tyler Street. We started paying some pretty big bills for that. So if you look at expenses in September 20 versus September 19, we're actually down about 24% in spending in that fund. Sanitation fund, expenditures are still slightly up, but you can see their bottom line, a little over 2.2 million this year. I know they do still have some capital expenditures that they intend to make. And then looking at the airport fund, again, airport fuel sales have taken a pretty significant hit this year, which is not really surprising, I don't think. But expenditures are still down as well. Expenditures there are down about 24% compared to 2019. And that concludes my comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or go over anything in more detail if anybody would like.
I'll make a motion to approve the monthly financials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the monthly financials ending September 30th, 2020. There's no further discussion. Mr. Garrett, would you call the vote, please?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Winningham.
Yes, sir.
Before we go to Community Development Council, if you look under new business there, C1, I'm talking about a resolution for us to enter into a real estate agreement with Oak Grove Cemetery. Mr. Finkenbinder and Mr. Clausen have asked that we table that along with the board of Oak Grove Cemetery until the meeting in the future. All right. Next up, we have the Community Development Committee, and Mr. Hawkins, this is all you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank you for having a committee meeting this evening. I think that was very informative, and our people did a great job of presentation. James Walton and Finley Vincent did a great job of that, and I want to thank you for putting them on the agenda this evening.
Yes, sir. You'll be hearing from police and fire be our next group.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's people around town, I think, enjoy hearing what's going on in our community. And so the big thank you to you for putting that out. Our first item on this portion of the agenda is a resolution amending the action plan for the program year 2019 for the Community Block Grant Development Program. And Kiara was there a minute ago. There you are.
Here.
She is still here. Kiara, would you like to tell us about this?
Yes, so we received a second round of funding for CDBG CV in the total of $334,809. So this resolution is for the 2019 amendment. We've already put one amendment in there for the first round of funding that we received. So this is the second round of funding that we have to actually put into the 2019 action plan. Again, to allot for the additional funding, and that will go towards the emergency shelter. So that'll just be additional funding that'll go towards that.
Very good. Very good. Any questions of Kiara?
And y'all remember the emergency shelter is the property that you purchased on Gum Street.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you,
I
Kiara.
make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution to amend the CDBG 2019 action plan and to add the additional CARE Act funding. Any further
Garrett, what's that resolution number, Mr. Garrett?
It's be R2074.
Thank you.
Mr. Garrett, would you call the vote, please, sir?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution requesting the Faulkner tax collector place some liens on some property due to expenses incurred by the city. We have 3 of those tonight. The first one is at 1817 Washington Avenue. At this point in time, the city has incurred $178.76 to clean up this particular property. And we have a resolution to read for this item. It's resolution R2075.
Make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution, placing a lien on the property at 1817 Washington Avenue. Is anyone from that property would like to speak to this? There's no further discussion. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll?
All
Call the
in-
vote, I'm sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next piece of property, Mr. Mayor, is located at 105 Eve Lane. The city has incurred $415.28 in cleaning up this particular piece of property. Is there someone online that would like to represent this property owner, or are they the property owner? And Mr. Mayor, I don't see anyone on at this time, so we have a resolution for this item. It's resolution R 2076.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution, placing a lien on the property located at 105 Eve Lane in the amount of $415.28. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Council, on the next one here that Mr. Hawkins is going to bring to your attention, there should be pictures added because this is a fairly large sum as compared to both of them. Mr. Clausen, Mr. Spencer Clausen is also online if you have any questions for him. Mr. Hawkins.
Very good, Mr. Mayor. This particular piece of property is at 233 Mill Pond Road, and to date, we have spent $5,670.95 cleaning this up. And Mr. Clausen, that's a lot of work.
Yes, sir, it is. It's quite a bit of work. Took 20 hours to clean it up and 5 40-yard roll-off dumpsters from sanitation to get this property into compliance.
Holy mackerel. Wow.
Wow.
A lot of trash.
It looks good now, though.
Looks real good.
It
Yes,
does.
sir.
Looks really good. Looks really good. Does anyone
Just-
from this
I was
property?
just,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, does anybody live out there, or is it vacant right now?
No, ma'am. There is a mobile home on the premises. From contact with the property owner, we understand it's been basically being used as a dumping grounds for about the past 13 years before we were able to respond to an anonymous complaint on it and pursue this. But no, ma'am, no one is currently living at this address.
I make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution, placing a lien on property at 233 Mill Pond Road in the amount of $5,670.98. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution approving professional services for the Transportation Department. And I bet Mr. Benson is going to pop up here and say something to us if he's around. There you go.
Sir,
I knew you'd be close.
here I am.
What can you tell us?
So this is, excuse me, this is actually the last roadway project that I talked about in committee. This is the Wooner, the shared street, or actually multiple shared streets that border.
What's it called?
It's called a Wooner. James, are you on? You want to add anything to that? Is that a Scandinavian word?
That is Dutch.
Dutch, thank you. That's the fancy Dutch. That's Dutch for shared street, apparently. James likes Dutch.
Clean shaven, Mr. Walden, too.
Yeah, I took the beard off to grow it back.
So what you have before you is an ordinance, a resolution asking for permission to enter into an agreement with McClelland Consulting Engineers to do a variety of things for us, including geotechnical investigation, roadway design, design of landscape plan and irrigation, lighting, yada yada, for a proposed future grant proposal to Metroplan to design the Wooners.
Make a motion for adoption resolution. I have it as 2078.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion or questions?
What is a definition of a Wooner, Mr. Walden?
I use that term once. I mean, come on to that sense. It is essentially, in Dutch, it's a living street, but the idea behind a shared street is that it balances the needs of the automobiles with that of pedestrians and bikes. So essentially, it gets rid of the curb distinction between the street and the sidewalk. And so in this particular application, why it's so attractive is that because that park space we have is only about an acre, this allows us to sort of block off that north and south street at times to allow, events, festivals, food trucks, things like that, that we can utilize more of that space. And it's one of those, I guess, a paradoxical thing, maybe is the right way to say it, about traffic a lot of times, is that when you make things that might appear less safe, they become even safer. So in some European cities, there are towns that have taken down all of their street signs. And when they took all of their street signs down, traffic accidents went down. That's very weird. And I wouldn't recommend doing that, but it's sort of an example of that type of philosophy.
And you try Googling it, you'll get a good definition.
I've learned something today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Walden. Thank you. Finley.
Any further discussion? That's very enlightening, Mr. Walden.
Yes, it was.
Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance accepting the annexation of property comprised of 26.98 acres south of Impey Trail here in Conway. And we have an ordinance to read for this item. Mr. Garrett, it is ordinance 020-62.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8-0. Mr. Walden, and I think Mr. Frank Shaw may be online with us. If you've got gentlemen like to address this.
Yes, this annexation is out on Impey Trail in the very south end of town, where Mr. Shaw's been doing some development down there with some very, very pretty development in that area. This was reviewed by all of the departments. All of the departments recommended annexation for the property. There was some concern raised about water utilities, but that should not affect annexation. That will be an issue that's resolved during the time of development with Conway Corporation. So it's something that came with unanimous recommendation from Planning Commission, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walden.
Mr. Shaw, you're a hard man to see.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
You're a hard man to see. I can't see you.
I got a sight more often. That we have 26.98 acres that adjoins the city that we have already been through the platting, and it's already been approved for a 21 lot subdivision to address a specific issue about adequate fire flow. We have engineered that with Conway Corp, and in fact, the pipe is being delivered hopefully this week, and it will be a 12-inch and part of it a 10-inch main extension, pardon me, that will be off-site from my development. It will come across from the big white water tower we all can see across the property that Jacob Longing has, and then across Dr. Collins's property on the north side of Impey, and all that to get water to our property. So we have engineered that, and the pipe is on the way, and that's off-site. And then, of course, we'll do what we have to do within the subdivision. But that should, as we're told, provide adequate fire flow. If it doesn't, I don't know where we'll get any bigger pipe than 12 inches. we couldn't hardly afford that. Just to make a, yeah, we're good. Anybody have a question for me?
No, sir.
No, I think Theo and I are excited that you're doing some development in our ward.
Well, and there will be more to come. This is phase 2, and we have phase 3, 4, and 5 in progress. As long as things hold up and people keep buying things in Conway and the sales tax revenue goes up, then we have hope that they'll buy homes as well.
So are you into developing now?
We have
Completely?
Mr. Shaw's building all around.
I still have a law practice and went to court today, go tomorrow, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing here at this late winter of my life, and it's rewarding. And we have our subdivisional museum, and Lower Ridge is about completed, and then we will hopefully start another one in that direction. But right now we're focused on south of town, and your ward and Mr. Jones's ward, and we're going to give y'all some more votes down there. We have a couple down there, a couple of brave souls who've started homes in the new area, and some of them are with you tonight, I think.
You don't ever know what you're going to end up doing, do you, Mr. Shaw?
Well, every day's a
person should never paint themselves in a corner.
I was in the corner a lot of my life already. I'm trying to corner very much.
I think that was mostly at council meetings.
Listen, not always did you put me in a corner. Sometimes I painted myself into a corner.
I wasn't just speaking about you, Mr. Shaw. I'm talking about everybody up here.
Well, that's why you have corners, is so you can put people in them. And I got familiar with corners in grade school. It's been a long time.
Good to hear from you, man. Hadn't heard from you in a while.
Thank you all for listening to me and letting me carry on a little bit. I appreciate your attention. We should have this ready to go. They actually started on the streets today.
Good.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Yes.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Mr. Walden.
I make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance annexing 26.9 acres of property located south of Empty Trail. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes, Aye. Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Mel.
Aye.
Passes 8-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Hawkins.
Final item, Mr. Mayor's consideration to approve a conditional use permit to allow firearms sales in TJ zones at 286 US Highway 65 North. And this was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their regular meeting October 19th of this year, and voted 9-0 that the request be forwarded to the City Council with a recommendation of approval with some conditions. Conditions are the conditional use permit will run with the land. No alterations or additions to existing fencing are allowed, and maintenance is permitted. Any new lighting installed shall conform to standards set forth by Article 1101 of the zoning code. No expansions or additions to the structure or site are allowed, and any change in use shall require a new or amended conditional use permit. And with those conditions, I move that we grant this conditional use permit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this conditional use permit to allow firearm sales for property located at 286 US Highway 65 North with the 5 conditions. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
And our last bit of business tonight is accepting grant proceeds from the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management to the Conway Fire Department. Chief Mike Winter will speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, we've been awarded a grant from Homeland Security for the bomb squad, the amount of $451,696. This is 100% reimbursable from the federal government. We're just asking for acceptance of this grant.
Make a motion, we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8-0. When I was on the fire department, the only thing they let me do with the bomb squads, they gave me a shirt that said, "I'm on the bomb squad. If you see me running, try to keep up."
Smart people.
I make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter, Yes. Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Passes 8-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, council, that's all we have tonight. As you know, our holiday season is approaching. So I said police and fire at the next one. Actually, I'll get us a date for our next committee meeting, and we will do police and sanitation. And then we'll try to squeeze fire and parks in shortly thereafter. That's all we have. Thank you for your time. Yes, sir, Mr. Hawkins.
Mr. Mayor, one quick thing. I was asked this week, or in the last week, about the city's stance on Halloween trick or treating. Do we have a stance on that?
We do. Mr. Ledbetter from the fire department. He was recently promoted to captain. We have been calling him the COVID cowboy. Now we call him the Captain COVID Cowboy. He actually put something out on the city's website about that. We're just following the state's recommendations, Mr. Hawkins, on social distancing and just people being safe. But folks can go to the fire department's Facebook page. Am I correct on that, Chief Winter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It should be on the Facebook page.
Go to the fire department's Facebook page and they can get all that right there from him. But we're going to allow it and hope people have a good and safe time. With that, council, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.